Welcome back to Bill-O-Gami. Today we're going to finish making this cross out of $8 bills. As you remember, in part one, we showed you how to make the three basic folds. This fold here, which is used primarily for the base of the cross. This fold here, this little kind of reverse angle fold, which is used on the two vertical pieces and also up here on this very top part of the cross. And then we also showed you how to make this little fold here, which is what is used on the crossbar, these two arms, and it's also used on the top, and it's used in the bottom down here to hold these two vertical pieces together. So I hope you had a chance to kind of practice with that and get familiar with it. Now, one thing I want to start with, though, is to mention something to be aware of. When you've now got all 8 of these tubular pieces folded, and and they're all 5 sides, all of equal length. And we've got them folded like that. But one thing I want you to do is take a few minutes anyway and look at them and see if any of them have borders that aren't the same thickness. Sometimes when they cut these sheets of currency, they just don't make the borders completely even. And in this case, the way we fold things, if these things aren't of an equal length, then it's not going to come out to do these folds for the arms anyway. The design in the middle is going to be all off center, and it's very difficult and in some cases it's impractical to try to adjust for that in where you bend things over. So just make sure that they're equal. If they aren't, you can easily use these disproportional pieces anyway for the two vertical pieces, because there it doesn't matter for these patterns, because you're controlling this. And it can also be used for this bottom piece down here, really, because down here in this bottom piece, this is really in here tight. It really doesn't matter. I'll show you later on that. Here's one that comes out a little easier. For this piece, it doesn't matter on that one. So that's something to take into account, and you need to look at that when you're trying to build this. One of the first things you want to do is to it's no specific order of it, but you do want to get these two arms folded, and you want to do everything in kind of in pairs to make sure that everything is exactly the same height. There's a little bit of a trick when doing these two vertical arms, because you want to be sure that on the right one that the text is going down, and on the left one the text is going up. You need to be sure that this part of the border, that face of the bill anyway, is facing out. It's always got to be facing out, or else when you look around the whole bill, the border line won't be continuous all around. It'd be upside down and look very, very shoddy. And so you want to be sure of that. The next thing you want to be sure of is when you got the bill, and I'll just take this one as an example, is then what you want to do is, when you got this bill to be made into it, is you want to go and fold this, make these two folds here. You want to make them an inch from the in God. 1 inch from that eye is where you fold it. And on the other side, on the back side of it anyway, you want it in trust. You want that to be 1 inch too. So it's 1 inch above and 1 inch below that particular text. Now, actually, you could fold over the bottom side first and just make sure all these creases are really good. And then you're just doing that one straightforward fold where you close it over and you've got it fully open here, and you fold both of these down to the side, and then I'll just quickly use this one because it's already got the creases built into it, makes it easier. And then you fold that over so that, you've got a 90-degree angle there. And then what we do is we simply grab inside here and fold this up so that we get this one like this. And then we take the other one that we've also kind of pre-creased that way, and we fold that over and stick that in. We have to stick this under here too, tuck that in there, and then you've got that piece. Now, one thing when you're doing it on the very first time, you may want to use that screwdriver I talked about or a letter opener just to kind of punch in here to make sure you get it pushed down tight. So it looks nice and sharp. And you can also use that to make sure that this area here is nice and open, because you're going to be sliding in these arm brackets into here. And so you want to be sure that there's, fits in there very nicely. In this case, obviously, this would be the right one, where you've got the 1 inch below and the 1 inch above. After you get those two done, and you've done them, then you might as well just do these, because these you really need, you can make 4 of these all at once. I already showed you as far as in folding them how basically all you do is fold it in half, of course, as you recall, and then however you want to do it, you fold this in on the side, and then you fold it up, open it up, and you got the old I-beam look, and then you pull out, the sides like this, and force it in, take out the other side, and like I mentioned the very first time, you got to decide right away, which side do you want up, because there again, you want consistency. If you're going to have the lighter side up, you want it up on every piece. Now these, you've got 3 of them where the size is important. It's definitely very important you've got these 3 pieces, which are the very top and then the sides of the 2 arms. Those have to be the same height. And the best height for these, based upon what we're doing with them, is 2 inches. So that each one of these should be, 2 inches in length. And you want to fold those, make sure that you all 3 of them, once you've made them, have the right length. So you fold it that way. On the bottom one, let's say this was the bottom one, it doesn't matter what the length is, because all that's going to be done is, as I showed you before, is the only thing happening to that one is that, it's just going to come out. And so you can, for a little bit of rigidity, you can fold them down, but it doesn't really matter. And usually what I do is I tend to punch in each side that's being inserted inside another piece, so that in this case, it makes it easier to get this in if I've gotten that punched like that. And this one you can make right away. And this one, because you can't see much, it doesn't have to be the best bill that you've got either. That doesn't really matter. So if we have that, and then we've got these 2 ones, then of course these just slide right into here. That's no problem. It's very easy to make. And then you've got this top piece. Now this top one, as we know, we fold this over, and then we use the 2 reverse folds in here. I'm not going to repeat those because that you already know how to do. I would suggest, though, that what you do is in order to do this, is that you do these folds first. In other words, when you've got it open, you just fold these things first. You created originally like this, and you make it that where the 2 inches are, because that's where this one's going to go, right there, and this one on each side, and then you actually do the middle part, really, because that way it's easier to do. And then what you can do is just fold up each end and then you get it back together again. Of course, in this case, I'm a little bit sloppy, but you know the idea. We just do that and then put it back together again. So you start out with it, so I wasn't too confusing. You start out making it like this. Don't fold in this end, and then you open it up and make these two kind of reverse folds. Make those, and then just fold it back together again, because you've already got the creases. It just takes a second to get those in and put the right ends on there, because then that'll create this, which of course and you got to always watch and make sure you put the text always on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side, obviously. And then this one, we just will slide in here and hold it, and then we slide that in there, and that'll make basically the cross complete, because we've already made that base part. Now, the next thing is all we've got is this little base to put together. I don't know, I got a zillion of them sitting around. Some of them are tighter than others. I'll just take this one. And again, this fold is what I showed you here. Is basically this little fold here, where all we're doing is just picking out the point of where to make the fold, and then folding each side like this over at 45 degrees, and then you've got that on both sides. Now in this case, to know where to make that fold, there's a little trick to that, and I might as well just use this one, just so you know exactly. What I've done is, what I've found anyway, for the right width of both of these pieces, the best place is just inside these two circles. There's one on each side when you're using the back side of the bill. And so I just fold that up there and that up there, and that's where the fold goes. And then it's just a question of once you've got that in there, of bending these sides back, these sides in, because we won't have quite that much of a crease, and you have that. The other thing you have to do, and that'll create the right width, and you can double check the width of this by inserting, what would be the bottom of the cross. And then what you want to do is, here, let me make this a little bit tighter here, since it's pretty shabby looking right now. That's why when you're doing this for your final piece, you want to use as crisp a bill as possible. It really makes a difference. Now, one of these pieces, the length doesn't matter of these two arms. On this one, it does. And the way to know what's the right length to do it is you just take the bottom of the cross and you stick it in here. And this end should be the length of that. However deep this is, that's how long the inside needs to be. Because what you're going to do is take this piece here, and you're going to put it into here, so this length has to be the thickness of that. So if we slide that in, then we put this on top. Well, actually, let me use the real one that's a little bit better. Stick it in there tight, and that'll hold it. So it's just, you just want to have that width so that this will fit in very snugly. And basically, that's the way you put, those are the limitations on the size of each of these pieces and kind of the sequence of how you want to put it all together. If you got any questions, just throw them into the comment section, and I'll be creating some more Bill-O-Gami figures, some very unique, some just easier ways to do some existing types of figures and creatures, and hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Bye.